Good evening. Why does life matter? We hear expressions, Black lives matter, white lives matter, these lives matter, those lives matter. All lives matter. But why does life matter? In the United States, in recent years, 2019, 2018, we have statistics of over 47,000 suicides. And since 1999, the suicide rates have risen 30%. Someone's alive. Why? Why end it? Apparently, some people feel there's no purpose to their life. There's no meaning to their life. But even in the worst of times, Viktor Frankl writes about life during the Holocaust, when he was in a miserable concentration camp and watching people being dehumanized by the suffering and the desperation that they were experiencing in the concentration camp. And there's a quote that he said that puts succinctly his view and his philosophy. He said, by having a clear why, we can face all the how questions of life. How come this? How come that? But if you have meaning, and that is the whole philosophy in his book, is about meaning. And if life has meaning, then you can face everything. And there are no how come this, how come that. And life will go on. Life will go on further. But what is the meaning? And what kind of meaning are we talking about? So you find different ways and different times and different people discussing about meaning. And that this meaning is so important that without it, the question is, does life matter? Why does life matter? Here in America, during the Revolutionary War, one of the founding fathers said, give me liberty or give me death. At least that's what's said in his name. If it's not a literal quote, there's a debate between historians, but certainly the idea was, give me liberty or give me death. Now think about it. Death? And if he doesn't have liberty, he's not alive? And if he's under the King of England, that is not life? And yet there was an ideal by many Americans during the Revolutionary War period that if they do not have liberty, then life is not worth living for. Well, I'm not going to go into the debate of, is that the right way of looking at it or not. I'm just trying to find illustrations of why people have an ideal, and that ideal is so strong that without that ideal, life doesn't matter. So for some it's country, for some it's love, for some it's happiness, whatever happiness means. For Jews, well, we have a history of martyrs. Jews who gave their life rather than surrender their religion. And there's so many stories, especially during the era of the Crusades, when Jews were given a choice. Their Judaism, their Yiddishkeit, or their life, and they gave their life for their Yiddishkeit. So this gives a perspective of that there is in life certain things, certain ideals, or a certain point that although somebody may be physically alive, his heart is beating, He's walking, he's talking, but there's a certain point within them that without that deeper sense of the meaning of life, then life doesn't matter. And that's illustrated in today's chapter that we're learning, chapter 12 of Ikeda Factor. We're explaining the Moida'anis. We spoke about the 4 interpretations of Moida'ani and the 4 levels of Torah understanding, Pshat, Remesh, Drus, Soid. And now we're going, after studying the 5th Pshat, the 5th interpretation, or the 5th focus, which is the Hasidic focus. Now we're going to see how the Hasidic emphasis about Moida'ani sheds light on all different interpretations. That it's a different, a brighter and more insightful pshat, more deeper remez, drush, soid. Now, the Hasidic emphasis of Moida'ani was the Ikeda. How the Ikeda, the whole point of Chasidus in the book, and in Ikeda Factor Chasidus, the whole point is that every Yid has that Ikeda, that godly spark. That's the highest level of his neshama. So although there are 4 lower levels of the neshama, nefesh, ruch, neshama, chaya, the Ikeda is that spark that's connected and with the spark of God is enclosed in that. And that's what is revealed through Chasidus. That is the Ikeda of Torah. And that therefore is going to offer insight in the Moida'ani. So in chapter 12 he speaks about how the Pshat, the simple understanding, the basic understanding, the fundamental understanding of Moida'ani, how this is illuminated and it reaches a new depth and focus through Chasidus. So what is the basic pshat of Moida'ani? The basic pshat of Moida'ani is to thank Hashem for returning our soul. Moida'ani lefanecha shechazarta bi nishmasi. You gave me back my soul. So that's good enough. That's good enough. I lost consciousness when I sleep, and now I'm awake, and our sages of the Gemara say what this means is that my soul to a certain degree was returned to me, I'm conscious, I'm awake, I'm ready to start my day. Moida'ani lefanecha, thank you Hashem. That's good enough. And yet Chasidus says, well, there's more to it. There's more to it. Let's look at the wording. Shechzarta bi nishmasi, you gave me back my soul, my Jewish soul. Thank you for giving me back my Jewish soul, nishmasi. Wait a minute. And if you didn't give me back my Jewish soul, then I don't have to say thank you? That's what this chapter is about. So let's look inside. I'm reading now from the text. Hachayis shechasidus machnisa b'chelek hapshat shebemoida'ani shahaidohi al shechzati b'nishmosi. This thanksgiving that my soul has been returned to me. Hu hadgasha b'feirush nishmasi neshama shali. Chasidus says, okay, the simple is very nice, thank you, recognition and appreciation of God's gifts of life, but Chasidus has to focus, always focuses on the soul. What is Chasidus and Kabbalah's nishmasa deraisa? The soul, the inner mechanics, the inner dynamics, the fire of Torah. So we take this verse and Chasidus says, wait a minute, look at the words, that you returned my soul, neshama shali. which means the Jewish soul. Yehudi. But if they would give him back a different soul, the Nachri, a Gentile soul, the Eved, a slave soul, even though he would regain consciousness, and like the sages and the Gemara say, that sleep, the state of sleep, is a 60th of death. So now he got out of that state and now he's awake. But if his soul is the Gentile soul or the soul of a slave, then that's not what we're talking about. Then that's not the thank you we're talking about. Lo hayamayda, he wouldn't thank. So here we have to understand this. Does my life have meaning? Does my life have meaning the way I want or need to find? So I went to sleep like a Jew and I wake up a goy. Is that the life that I'm thankful for? And there what Chasidus comes. Here Chasidus comes into the picture. Chasidus says, if you read the text, yes, that may be pshat. You read a siddur, it looks like, yeah, thank you Hashem for giving me back life. And Chasidus, who looks at the soul of everything, says, the real thank you is that his Jewish life came back to him. Because the Jewish life is really the life that gives him meaning. It's the ideal that life is worth living for. And that is the Hasidic focus of this prayer. It's a thank you for something deep and meaningful. It's a thank you for an ideal that his life, the life itself, has meaning. And it continues. It's only when that godly self, that godliness that's in him shines, not just the rest of his neshama, not the lower levels. It's only when the Ikeda, which is the focus of Chasidus, when the Ikeda level of his neshama, when that shines, then he has that appreciation that what life matters, life where he has the sense of his Jewish soul. What's life? Jewish life. When is it? Well, in the Jewish sense, the Adam, the life of Adam, is the Gemara says Adam Atem, that when we refer to the word Adam, it refers to Jews, the Jewish Adam, and that is what life has. What's the life that matters to him? Why? Asher ruach b'nei ha'adam ha'olehi l'mayla. Because the spirit of man that goes upwards in the fullest measure is the neshama. At which point of the neshama is towards above? That's the Ikeda, because that's the essential spark of God that's in him. So that essential spark of God is still connected to Hashem. It's nitzutz boides and ishlabes b'nitzutz nivra. That is the godly spark, and it's still connected to Hashem. And that is the spark of God, and that's the part of him that cannot be disconnected from Hashem. The lower parts of his neshama are more focused downwards and enclosed in the body, and the human experiences of thinking, of feeling, of doing. Those are the lowest parts of neshama. So which part of his neshama is so tuned into life that what life matters is the life of Yiddishkeit? That is the Ikeda. And because That is the part of him that's completely focused above. What about the physical life? But if he only has the life of flesh, the physical life, it's the life of an animal. The scientists are onto something, that most of the cells of the human body is like the cells of an animal. That's true. It's the neshama that makes the main difference between a human and an animal. So if someone is just happy that he's physically alive, but his Jewish neshama didn't come back to him, so then it's the life of an animal. I'm alive. So I'm alive. So what? What is the spirit of an animal? The spirit of man is heading upwards. The spirit of an animal, the spirit of an animal is downwards. We find in our Chazal, they say, Am adoyim l'chamoir. There's a people who is like the donkey. Oy nikra chamor. In the footnotes he brings, which Maimorei Chazal, where our sages said, there's a people that are like the donkey. There are people who are called donkey. So they are people, and they have a nose and two eyes, and they walk upright. But for all practical purposes, they're donkey, because the donkey is the word in Hebrew chamoir. The donkey is also chamur, chamuri. He's very materialistic. What is a donkey? You know about eating and breeding and running from cold to hot and hot to cold. So that's what a donkey is. So a person wakes up in the morning and his neshama didn't come back to him. His Jewish soul didn't come back to him. He doesn't feel that this is a thank you. Ruach habehem yiredas lamata. Be'er ko yein chayim. In his world and his worldview, that's not life. So if he comes up and he wakes up and he feels, I'm a donkey, I'm a goy, that's not life. He won't feel that he has to thank Hashem. On the contrary, he'll feel that this is not what I meant to be. So think about it. So what's the point? The point he's saying is, what life matters to me? What life is worth living for? So some speak about liberty. Without liberty, there's no life. Without love, without wealth, what happiness? And the Hasidic focus over here is that it's a spiritual life. It's when the neshama could express itself in the fullest way. So let's try to explain it a little more psychologically. What are those people who feel that although they're walking around, they feel life is not worth it? It's because deep inside of them, they have a need for that ideal. That ideal that they feel missing in themselves. So they feel there's an ideal and they have a sense for that ideal. And if they don't have it, they feel life is not worth it. So to some people it's liberty or love or whatever else. And to a Yid, deep inside there is a need for the spirit. And if he can't have spirit, and he has no way of connecting to that spirit, connecting to that ideal, he feels such an emptiness that life doesn't matter. I was thinking about it. We find it in the Kabbalah. Chassidus speaks a little about it as well. They speak about, as a punishment for sins, a life is brought down into an animal. So the Arizal, for example, writes, someone who committed adultery, he may be punished, that his neshama, his soul, is going to come down again in the form of a dog. And there's a whole list, there's a chapter in the writings of the Arizal, Shar Gulgulim, Sefer Gulgulim. For this sin, he becomes a monkey, a donkey, a this, a goat. For specific sins, different Gilgulim. So what is the pain of this Gilgul? So Chasidus, they analyze the pain of this Gilgul. The person has a human soul that thinks and that has a human identity of self, a human awareness, and suddenly is in the body of a donkey or a dog. It cannot express itself. It's in jail, it's imprisonment. It has an awareness where it is. It has an awareness where it should be and what it should be, and it's just stuck, hanging out with a pack of other dogs. Chasidus says, when you wake up in the morning, and his Jewish neshama didn't come back to him, so he's just living in a body. So for him, this is pain. This is not, it's a down, it's not an up. So I'm back here now as a slave or as a goy. This is not what I hoped for. Yesterday I was a Yid. I want to come back as a Yid. And if I'm not a Yid, I'm in prison. So I'm not happy. There's something in me that is not expressed deep inside. So a dog could be happy. You give him dog food, you wash him, he goes into the water, shakes off the water, you bathe him, people take care of their pets, they go to get immunized by the veterinarian, there's medical insurance for dogs, everything. Soon there's going to be senior care for dogs. Fine. The dog is happy. Some dogs inherited a lot of money. Remember this lady gave all her money to the dogs. Rich dogs. But a Yid who's put into a dog is not happy. If you see a depressed dog, now you know why. I think they have dog psychologists, I heard. If you have a depressed dog, now you know why. I don't know if the psychologist is going to figure it out. It's because there's a neshama, a sinful person who was sent into a dog, he's depressed. He's not going to be happy.
You can also have a dog who's a dog.
Yeah, of course. Those are the happy dogs.
I mean, Ken Zion is a dog, als dog.
Yeah. So therefore, this is a Ikeda concept. He's going to elaborate more on that. This focus, that I have everything, but I'm missing that inner happiness. For some people, it's music. They're not happy unless they hear music or play music. Some musicians, if you take away music from them, they don't feel alive. Because deep inside of them, they have this need for music. Music talks to their soul. And for Yid, even deeper than the pleasure of music is the pleasure of music to the soul. And that is the Yiddishkeit. And that is Nichida more than the other levels of Neshama. And that's why Chasidus emphasizes that. Even though physical, material, the life of flesh is important, we're not talking about coming back as an animal. We're speaking about coming back as a human. And the human species is the highest in the animal world, so to say. The greatest creature that Hashem created here in this world is the human being. So what's wrong? I'm a human being. I have to be a Jew. And if I don't come back as a Jew, my Jewish neshama doesn't come back to me, something is missing. We say it later on in the brachas. Shlo yisani goy, shlo yisani avid. Thank God I wasn't made a goy. Over there also, commentators of the Siddur explain that it refers to the neshama of a goy coming into him. And Chasidus emphasizes this right by the Moedani, Nishma si, my soul. I need my soul. So what's wrong? I'm a human being. Human beings are intelligent. Human beings are the human form, so to say, is created in the image of God and so on. So what's wrong? I have to have my Jewish soul has to come back to me. So the answer is, Harikol Yisrael B'nei Melachim Heim. The Jewish people are called B'nei Melachim, princes. Each one is a prince. And a prince is not just another human being. A prince, when we speak about a prince, we're talking not because he's lucky enough to be born with some royal blood, which may be not so great anyway. But when we're talking about that, when the Chazal speak about a prince, they're talking about a person who is a true sense of the word of prince. It means he's refined. He has a higher sense of dignity. He has a higher sense of meaning. He has a higher sense of purpose. That's what when the Chazal say, when our sages tell us that the Jewish people, every one of us, is supposed to understand and appreciate that he's the son of God, B'ni B'chari Yisrael, my firstborn son, and therefore he is a prince because he is the God's son. So the expectation of how he should behave, how he should spend his time, what he should do with himself, what he should accomplish for himself, it's a totally different expectation. What is the concept of life for a true prince? Is to be connected with his father's position, the history, what he represents, how his life is a continuation and the personification of what the country stands for, how the history of the past is going to be realized through his time when he becomes king and so on. So it's not just about a prince who's a bum and he's out there to party and take advantage of the wealth that is associated with prince. We're not talking about that. That's not really the concept of prince. A true prince, if he's going to be torn away from his father and what his father represents, the ideal, that ideal of what his father represents, they'll take the prince and put him in a barn and say, here, feed the animals, shower them down, wash them down, shovel the hay, move them around. He won't be happy. He'll be disgusted. Because a prince really sees his life as transcendent. The prince sees his life as part of something that's bigger than just another human being. He sees his responsibility for the future of the country. So he is spending his time in growing in wisdom, in understanding, in character, to be able to continue that mission. We have today people give their life for their country. That means their physical life they're giving for their country, which is an ideal. That idea is more or less still intact in most countries of the world where there are a young people who are in the army, which means that they're ready to give their life for their country. Why are they willing to give their life for their country? Because they see their country as something larger than life. They see their country as something that is worth sacrificing for. They see that there's meaning and purpose in them transcending their life. It's not they're going to live 70, 80 years, but they see the ideal that they're fighting for so great. So therefore, if you put the prince in a barn, he's not happy. And the same thing a yid, who really has that yechida, and that's not coming back to him. You're not allowing that yechida to be, so to say, part of him. He still has a sense subconsciously that he has in himself that godliness, but now he comes into this body and he's not connected to it. It's like you put a prince in a barn. And therefore, what kind of moidani? How should I thank Hashem? What purpose is there in thanking Hashem? And he brings a story from a famous chassid of the Alter Rebbe. This chassid of the Alter Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Yekusiel Yepler. Rabbi Yekusiel, or Kusia they used to call him. And he was actually a chassid who worked on himself. He wasn't born with great intellectual or spiritual capabilities, but he worked on himself to the degree that he had reached a high level of Hasidic understanding. And in fact, it is said that the Mittler Rebbe wrote a whole book of Chasidus. It's really more in depth of Kabbalah concepts than other books of Chasidus, Imre Bina, that he wrote it especially for him. And this Rabbi Yekusiel Kessler was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, the one who wrote the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe gave him a bracha for long life. And Rabbi Yekusiel responded, "Thank you, but it shouldn't be life of a peasant. It should be meaningful life. Some people in their old age, they lose it. Because there's no meaning in their life." He wanted, the way he expressed himself was, it shouldn't be life of a peasant. I'm going to read it inside. Ikeda Factor machos Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler, shekishratza admar hazaken levarche bariches yamim, Amar aber nit mit poyer shiyarim. He says it in Yiddish. Not the years. He wanted to bless him with years. This is the wording is. He wanted to bless him with years, with many years. So he says, not the years of the poyer. Poyer is a low-life peasant. Was einayim lehem v'lo yiru, was einayim lehem v'lo yishmu. They have eyes, they cannot see. They have ears, they don't hear. Man zet nicht kein Gettlichkeit, und man hört nicht kein Gettlichkeit. It shouldn't be years where you don't see godliness and you don't hear godliness. So the Rebbe is making a big deal over here about this. He's been giving years. So grab what you can get. Grab what you can get. But to Rabbi Yekusiel, if the life is not where I could hear godliness and sense godliness, then it's not life. It's not life. To him, that's give me liberty or give me godliness or give me whatever you want, but it's not life. And the Rebbe emphasizes, it's not understood. How do we understand this? Here the Alter Rebbe wants to give him a gift. He's making conditions. Here he's been given a gift, and he's making conditions. Is it going to be bigger or smaller?
Added to the blessing.
Long life, many years, is such a great thing. How does he make conditions with the blessing? The explanation is, so what's the explanation? Rabbi Kasil, to him, if it's life where he can't understand Chasidus, he can't understand Torah, he can't daven, he can't connect to Hashem, it's not life. Why is life meaningful? How is life meaningful? So therefore, he didn't ask, the Rebbe is making an insight over here. It's not that he was asking for more. You could explain, like someone said before here, he wants more. Okay, first of all, give me years. Okay, so now bracha number one is I should have more years. So the life, the way it's in Tehillim, average is 70. That's life. And now we're going to have more years. Okay, we're going to have another 10 years. So, thank you. But this, to make me happy, those 10 years should be years of meaning and purpose, of Torah, of davening, etc. But it's not what he said. He said, the years that you're giving me shouldn't be the years of a peasant, empty years. Meaning that just to get those years, and in those 10 extra years or so, there is no godliness, there is no connection to Hashem, so what kind of years are there? They're not years. I'm soon going to explain. Kim sha'arichis yamim tiyah metziyah shel yemei chayim is ki hayamunach etzle bepashtus, because the attitude, and this was his basic understanding of life. Rabbi Kasil was a chassid whose basic understanding of his life was what is life? Where you can experience godliness. And therefore, that's why he said, I'm giving me life, but not the life, empty life. Not an empty life, not a life without meaning, not a life without purpose, not a life without godliness, not a life without the Jewish experience. Such a life was not worth living. Okay, so now let's understand this. And as I was studying this, I was thinking to myself, okay, so we're telling us about Chassid Rabbi Kasil the Apler, who lived some 250 years ago. And he had such an appreciation of what we can call the quality of life, that if he doesn't have this quality of life, high quality, then it's not life. So one can say, well, but I am not Rabbi Kasil. I'm not. I can see some of the faces and say, wow, this person is such a high sense and value of the spiritual life experience, that without the spiritual life experience, there's no life. So, yes, this is from the Ikeda, and he's going to go into the next paragraph, in the last paragraph. It's a Ikeda type of attitude, yes. And this is only on a high level of our neshama. But I'm not Rabbi Kasil. So how does it apply to me? How does it apply to me? How does it apply to every Yid? Especially the Chasidus is meant, and this was especially in the generation of the Rebbe, that every Yid has to learn Chasidus, from the hippie to the Talmud Chacham, to the person who's secularized totally, to the person who's very devout. And also, we all have our ups and downs. How many of us are tuned into our Yechida? How of us are tuned into even the lower levels of the neshama? Most of us are really so in tune with our physicality and our physical pleasures and our body and the sense of heat and cold and all this stuff and hunger. So why are we into this high level of consciousness that Rabbi Yukasiel was? So what Chasidus is telling us over here, what the Rebbe is saying here is, and it's fundamental to Chasidus, and that is that when we say Yechida, that there's a level of the neshama, the fifth level, the highest level, the level that is so to say headed upwards, connected to Hashem, the godliness in us, that every Yid has. Every Yid has in himself
The potential.
not only the potential, it's subconscious. It's potential to come to the consciousness. But it's not a potential that's not there. That's why I like to use the word subconscious. What is the idea of subconscious? The idea of subconscious is that it's there. And it comes to the fore indirectly. So, for example, when someone goes to a psychiatrist, when Freud was talking about it, people come to the psychiatrist with different anxieties and fears. So the person doesn't like the color blue. Why doesn't he like the color blue? When it comes to a room with the color blue, he goes crazy. Why does he go crazy? So the psychiatrist is going to analyze him, tell me about your years and about your childhood, until he's going to come to that one day his father wanted to teach him swimming, and there was a blue pool, and threw him into the blue pool, and our blue is bad. I'm making it much more simple than a psychiatrist would do it. But what's the point? The point is that deep inside, in levels, in his spirit, in his mind, there is a subconscious. It's below the conscious or above the conscious. Hasidus would say it's above the conscious. It's above what he is aware in his mind and his feelings. And over there is that Yechida. And therefore, a Yid does have in himself that prince. A Yid has in himself that spiritual aristocracy, that if he is going to come and live his life like a goy, he's going to feel something is missing. And if he won't be aware of it this year, it'll be next year and the third year. A year to find his inner happiness, to find wholeness, to find his inner peace. It's in the end connected with his Yiddishkeit. And to the degree that this sense of the Yechida, that life is not worth living unless it's a life that has meaning, that transcends the physical pleasures, then he's missing out on life. So this is so contrary to the secular opinion. When the secular viewpoint is, people want to experience lives, they don't want to miss out on life, so that they're doing crazy things because they're feeling they're missing out on this pleasure and that pleasure and the third pleasure, as if there's pleasures that are beyond pleasures, and they're going crazy trying to chase after what they think is going to make them happy, but really it's not going to make them happy. There is a vart from the Mittler Rebbe. I heard this from Rabbi Yoel. He analyzed the Jew who's money hungry. So he's chasing after money. So he wants to be a millionaire. So he made $1 million, and he still wants to do more. He always said his goal is $1 million. Why is he going after more? Because he's not happy. So he feels he needs more. So now he has $2 million, and he has already 2 houses. He has a house in New York, and he has a condo in Miami. And he's still no. Why? Because he's not happy. So he needs a house in Israel. He's a condo in Israel. Still going. He's not happy. So the Mittler Rebbe analyzed him with really subconscious. He reached the subconscious psychiatric analysis. You know what's going on here really? What's at play is his Yechida. What's at play is his neshama, the essence of his neshama. So he said he's after $1 million. Okay, he has his $1 million. Why is he not happy? So really subconsciously he's not happy because $1 million doesn't fill the neshama. The neshama needs something more. So that emptiness that he feels inside of him is really the source of it is his neshama. But he thinks it's his pursuit of money. If he'd have 2 million, he'll be happy. So he's going on and on, this condo, that condo, third condo, this pleasure, chasing that pleasure. He's still going to feel empty. You know he's going to feel empty? Because really, in his depth of his subconscious, there's that neshama that needs satisfaction and fulfillment and wholeness. And he's not going to be whole until he's going to find fulfillment in a different currency, not in dollars, not in euros. He's going to find satisfaction in Torah mitzvahs.
The secular Jew? You analyze it?
Even not necessarily a secular Jew. You have religious Jews who are that.
Crazy Jew? Why he's not happy?
He's a religious Jew also.
A
Crazy Jew. Yes, this could happen to every Jew. I don't know about you, but every Jew. It could happen to every Jew. That every Jew feels that every Jew can sometimes feel unhappy. And really what he needs is more spirituality. It could be a Jew who's learning Daf Yomi, he's learning a blot every day, but he needs something deeper. If that Jew who's learning a page of Gemara or a chapter of Mishnayos, or he's learning a Martyrs Chasidus, it could be a Chassid, and he still feels unhappy, it may very well be because he needs to daven with more kavanah. He has to learn deeper. But so therefore, this is really what's at play over here, and that's how he concludes that what's playing over here. What's playing over here is that this is a really Hasidic focus. Without Chasidus, one could argue, well, listen, he has his neshama back to him, it has to be dafka the Jewish neshama, yeah, it's better. But to say that this extreme view, that without the Jewish neshama, it's not even worth a thank you, it's a very extreme view. But that's really what the text says. The text says, thank you, why? Because you gave me back my neshama, my Jewish neshama. Or we say it in the Birchas HaShachar, Shlai Sonic, good morning, thank you, and if I have to thank me for not making a goy, and without that it's not going to be anything. It's more felt in the Moed Ani, because the Moed Ani was saying, thank you only for giving me back my neshama. In the brachas, that's not so emphasized. So what's Taka Pshat? So really, if you look at the lower levels of his neshama, he says that in the last paragraph. If you look at not Yechida, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, look at the soul that's connected with his intelligence. The soul level that's connected with intelligence, so the pure, raw godliness is not felt over there because it's already in an intellectual form. The godliness aspect there is besides the point, so to say, or it's not sensed in its full rawness and in its essence. So it's intellectual. So intellectually, I can say, well, listen, I got my life back. It's also something. I mean, it's something. And similarly, what is the level of ruach, which is the level of the neshama that's connected with feelings. So I have feelings, I'm enjoying the feeling, I love, I have a sense of awe, of Hashem, of the world. So, yes, but there's the godliness in it. But the godliness aspect is already framed in feelings and in the intellect, or in action, the nefesh level of the neshama, or even chaya, will. It's all in, so to say, more human experiences. So if these are levels of neshama which already are in a more human form, so do we say to the degree without godliness it's nothing? No. On the lower levels of neshama, I could still say without godliness it's still something. I have a sense of understanding. The human being, even a Gentile, he has the human spirit. He has a sense for the spirit as well. He has a certain sense for God as well. They have a certain sense of the spirit. But that's not what we're talking about. It's only the Ikeda, that level of Ikeda, that essential core that's deep, deep, deep inside most people in their subconscious. But that's the level that there's only God in that spark. That's the level of neshama which the godliness is touching the neshama. Over there's nothing but godliness. So to really appreciate the depth of the Moidani, it's on that level. And I would apply it in a practical way. So even though the average person cannot say, certainly on the average day, that he senses that without their Yiddishkeit, life is not worth living for. But a Yid should be aware of the dynamics of the neshama deep inside. Because when he is aware of that answers a lot of questions about his own psychological makeup, about his inner happiness, about his need. Even people who are secularists, they do find themselves every now and then for a need to connect to the Yiddishkeit, to connect to the Spirit, to connect to a life that transcends the pursuit of pleasure, the pursuit of money, the pursuit of glory. Because everybody has that neshama inside. And that is the Ikeda aspect. And that is the Hasidic focus. Chasidus, the study of Chasidus, lets us focus on that. And therefore, he's not going to be happy with the pursuit of pleasures. And it also enables him and empowers him to overcome his own mishigas and his own obsessions. Because most people are obsessed and they're addicted to their own the pursuit of their physical pleasures and their physical character flaws and so on, and even their vulgarity. So if a Yid has to know that there's more to me, that I am a prince, and even though I look in the mirror, I don't see myself as a prince, I see myself as a bear. But you should know this is a prince dressed up in a bear costume, or a prince dressed up in a donkey costume. It's Purim coming up. You have to know that there's a prince inside, B'nai Melachim, and that is the Ikeda Factor. And even though we're spending time and speaking about the highest ideal, the ideal of life without Yiddishkeit is not worth living for, but I think to a certain degree everyone can apply it every day in their schedule and in their daily schedule by thinking, this is my neshama. And I'm going to conclude with a part. There was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe who did big business under the Tsar. So he had a permit to live in Petersburg. The average Jew was forbidden to live in Petersburg. You had to have a special certificate, a license, who was allowed to live in person. Jews that had contact with government or great wealth, so they had to do business with the government, and the country depended on it. And he also had to sometimes socialize with the wealthier and the aristocratic crowd in Petersburg. So he was once visiting the Alter Rebbe and the Shtetl and Liadi with other Chassidim, and they asked him, Yankel, so how did you, you stayed a chassid, you're still a chassid, you lived already so many years in Petersburg, and you're mingling with the aristocratic and the high society of the Russian high society. How do you keep your Yiddishkeit? So you're really a tzaddik. So he says, no. You know what? Different thoughts came to my mind during this time. But I would say to myself, me, a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, should allow myself to stoop so low to this lifestyle of these the vulgar experiences of that society, I felt when such a thought came to me, no. I'm not going to lower myself. He's a prince, and a prince lives like a prince. He has a neshama, and a neshama lives like a neshama. And with that, such a thought could help us overcome our own mishigasim and our own weaknesses. And that's why we're talking about Yechida, and the Kabbalah talks about Yechida, and the level of Yechida is a very high level of soul experience, but we have to remember we all have that, and we have to tune into that now and then to help us overcome our daily struggles with our nefesh habahamis, with our animal soul, the challenges we go through life daily. Good night.